Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, it comes from what you do consistently. A warm afternoon to one and all present here. We all are gathered here for a workshop on Business Model Canvas, organized by Entrepreneurship Development Cell and Institutions Innovation Council at Knowledge Institute of Technology, Knowledge Business School. Now, I would like to call Ms. Aishwarya, first MBA, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Aishwarya.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. On behalf of Knowledge Institute of Technology and Knowledge Business School, it's given me an immense pleasure to welcome you all for Entrepreneurship Development Cell and Institution Innovation Council organizers workshop on business model canvas. Define your own success, own term, achieve it by your own rules, build up by your life, which you have to live proudly to say that I have succeeded. Yes, today we have a wonderful chief guest, Mr. Stephen Deepak, Associate Director, School of Management, Christu Jayanti College, Autonomous, Bangalore. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would like to welcome our respected founder and principal, Dr. P.S.S. Srinivasan sir, in absence here of Knowledge Institute of Technology, who has been constantly supporting to organize these kind of programs. Next, I welcome Dr. P. Suresh Kumar sir, in his absence here, mentor and director, R&D Department, Knowledge Business School. Next, I'd like to welcome our director, sir, Dr. A. Stephen, sir of Knowledge Business School. He is the person who always motivates students to get industry knowledge from industry experts. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, I welcome Dr. M. Kotishwaran, sir, Associate Professor and Coordinator of Entrepreneurship Development Cell, for conducting these kind of programs. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Ma.
Also, I am happy to welcome our heads of various departments, faculty members, supporting staffs for this Entrepreneurship Development Cell program. And finally, budding managers, my dear fellow students, we welcome you all for this inspiration and thought-provoking session. Happy learning all. Thank you.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Next, I would like to call Mr. Sam Barnaba, first MBA, for the chief guest introduction. Over to you, Sam.
Good afternoon, all. Here I am delighted to introduce our chief guest, Professor Stephen Deepak. He is a graduate of Personal Management and Industrial Relations from St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science, Bangalore. He has completed his MBA in Marketing from University of Madras and postgraduate diplomas in Marketing and Advertising, Personal Management, Industrial Relations, and Retail Management. While coming to his immense experience part, he has worked in Sales and Marketing departments in Tuflon Private Limited, India. He also worked in several event management campaigns in firms such as Phase 1 and DNA. Next, speaking about his teaching, he has taught management courses at various institutions like Mount Carmel Institute of Management, ICFAI University, IGNO, Symbiosis University. Currently, sir is a faculty at School of Management in Christu Jayanti College, Bangalore. Adding to this, sir is also certified in entrepreneurship course educator from IIM Bangalore, Stanford University Ventures Program. He has 16 years of teaching experience and teaches several papers in the field of entrepreneurship, human resources, and marketing management. And so, Sir is a certified life skills trainer. He has conducted many personal effective programs on personal and professional ethics and organization justice. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invite. I am sure today will be thought-provoking session. Over to Janani.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Coming together is beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Now, I would like to invite our director, sir, Dr. A. Stephen, for the director address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be part of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of Knowledge Business School, part of Knowledge Institute of Technology, and the Institutions Innovation Council. We organize the Executive Interaction Program on Business Model Canvas. I'm so proud to be part of this interaction. To begin with, as a business graduate, you will be having two options in mind. One is to be an entrepreneur, or you would like to be an employee from corporate. These two options predominantly all the business graduates will have. Okay, when it comes to business, organizing a business or business venture, You should have certain ideas in mind as to start the business model to make the business innovative. You should have certain inputs in mind, because of which we have organized the interaction program on a business model canvas when you are in the first semester, which will be very, very appropriate and useful to you. In the process of academic experience, when it comes to the completing the degree, you might venture into employment. Later, at times, you may realize you would like to be an entrepreneur. At such a point of time, such an input on business model canvas, how to start a business and value proposition, all these things will be very, very useful to you. Okay, so that you can add value to the customers in turn. When it comes to Mr.'s model canvas, you all would aware it's a strategic management template that helps you to design your business, describe your business, and analyze your business. That is very important. Business model canvas is a tool. Okay, so it's a tool to visualize all the building blocks of a business. There are various building blocks of business to say key partners, okay, key activities, key resources, value proposition, customer relationship, channels, customer segments, cost structure, revenue streams. All these building blocks will be explained and described in detail by our prominent chief guest, Professor Stephen Debaksa. That will add a lot of insights and ideas to you. That will bring about a lot of innovation to you. After this program, whatever you look at, you'll be having a lot of business insights and business acumen. It will be a wonderful, wonderful, fruitful session for you. After this session, you'll be having a lot of prompting questions, so that that pushes you into deep thinking about the each and every facet of the model. Okay, that prominent questions are very important. Okay, after this session, you will get a lot many questions to make your business model very, very enabled. I'm sure, my dear students, this session would be a great learning session for you. Further, we have a wonderful resource person, Stephen Deepak sir. Sir is a great orator, great speaker. I have listened to his lecture earlier. Wonderful personality. Sir has got ample experience in corporate field and also in academic. As you have seen in the profile, Sir is also a certified entrepreneurship course educator from IIM Bangalore and Stanford University Ventures program. And he is also very, very delighted to give the insight to you. I'm sure you are going to have a wonderful session. On behalf of the management, faculty, and students, we extend a warm welcome to you, sir, Stephen Deepak, sir,
Thank
the
you, sir.
executive interaction program on business canvas model. And I also wish my dear students to have a wonderful, fruitful learning experiences. After the interaction, you can ask questions to Professor Stephen Deepak, sir. Sir will be delighted to answer your questions. At this juncture, I'm deeply delighted to welcome our beloved principal sir in absentia. I'm really thankful that sir give us a lot of permission to organize such a program to MBA students to make you equipped and skillful. Sir always insists, principal always insists to give a lot many content and lot many areas beyond the syllabus, so that we can make you more skilled, more employable, and more aware. On behalf of my students and faculty, I thank our beloved principal sir for giving us this opportunity, and I'm sure you will be having a wonderful session. Okay, go to the comparent. Thank you, Anandal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request all participants for a short photo shoot session. Kindly requesting all participants to turn on your camera.
Dear students, switch on your camera. for few minutes, just for one shot. Yes. Student, can switch on your camera for a minute. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you all for the response. There is no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failures. Now, I would like to invite our today's chief guest, Dr. Stephen Deepak Sir, Associate Professor, School of Management, Kristu Jayanti College, Bangalore, to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you very much and very good afternoon. Am I audible? Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
You're audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, very good afternoon and greetings to each one of you. First of all, let me place my sincere thanks. And I'm very pleased to be here at Knowledge Business School to address on the workshop on the business canvas model. First of all, thankful to the founder and principal, Dr. Srinivasan sir, Dr. P. Suresh Kumar, mentor and director R&D, and to Dr. A. Stephen, a very good friend of mine, director of Knowledge Business School, and to dear Professor Kotishwaran Mani for having invited me. I feel very glad and happy to be a part of this family of Knowledge Business School. And this is my second virtual webinar that I am meeting all of you virtually. I mean, though I would want to do it offline, would want to meet each one of you personally on the campus and do this presentation, but given the kind of circumstances that we are in, this is the best that we can do. Right, so over the next 1 hour, 15 minutes or so, I'm going to take you through a business canvas model and make that as interactive as possible and see how we will be able to make the best use of the time that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation. That slide where we had the quiz starting up. Yeah. Yes, the next slide, sir. All right, so this is where I was talking about a sense of purpose and a passion. Your purpose must always be backed by passion, and the combination of these two is what can lead you to be a successful entrepreneur in the beginning, and then later on, if you're looking at a corporate job, you can also look at that as your career. So this is where I was trying to bring these two P's together. Right, so next slide, sir. Yeah, next slide, sir, next slide. All right, so this is where, I was entering into that segment of the quiz where we wanted to look at certain circumstances in the life of certain individuals. Now, there are two sets that we look at. One is generally when we talk about entrepreneurship to our students. Let's say, for example, very, very famous personalities, right? Famous personalities like Richard Branson, or we talk about Narayan Murthy for that matter, right? Or a Dhirubhai Ambani for that matter. So generally when we talk about entrepreneurs and then we talk about the lives of these entrepreneurs, generally from a student point of view, when we look at it, students don't very easily connect with them because they always look up to these entrepreneurs as extraordinary people. They believe that these entrepreneurs are all, people who are very gifted, very talented. They had something beyond whatever we had, right? So that is where they are unable to connect with them. right? So I'm going to show you these circumstances in the lives of these entrepreneurs. Two entrepreneurs that I'm taking for that segment called Few Among Them, and you can guess as and when you are able to crack the clue, right? So we go to the next. You can enter the details. Okay. The first entrepreneur that I'm going to talk about was an adopted son of a Mountain View, California machinist, which means in California and Western California, his father was a mechanic who worked in an electronics store. Second clue. At a very young age, the individual that I'm talking about had a very keen interest on electronics and gadgetry. He liked to work with electronics and gadgets and circuits and things like that. Very like a hobby. Yeah. Third, while he was at school, like how students in school have these science projects and they have to show demonstrations and exhibitions. So he had to do one thing, right? So this entrepreneur that I'm talking about called up the founder of this famous company, HP Computers, called up Hewlett and Packard, called up the co-founders and asked for parts for a school project. So he called up these gentlemen and he told them that I'm working on a school project and I'm going to make this demonstration. I need some parts from your organization, right? So that's the third clue. Fourth, he joined a college. He joined Reed's College, where he was enrolled for English literature as well as for calligraphy, right? But he did not like what was being taught. He was not able to connect with the subject. So he dropped out of school, right? So which is he was a college dropout. Next clue. He had a fascination for Eastern spiritualism. He liked India, he liked Eastern spiritualism, Ayurveda, yoga, temples, right? Eastern meditation. So he liked all of this. Any answers if you're able to get the clue, if you're able to identify this person? Anybody? Are you able to know who I am talking about? Yes, I have somebody putting their hand up. Suha, you can answer. Suha Mahesh. Yeah, it's absolutely right.
Steve Jobs, sir.
Very good, very good. Got the answers. Yes, Steve Jobs. Over to the next clue, sir, so we can finish that up. So he took a part-time job in video designing to earn money to travel to India. As I said, he was very fascinated about traveling to India. So he did a part-time job in video designing, earned some money, and wanted to travel to India. All right, next clue. He also has this very unique distinction of having been fired by the CEO he appointed. Right? Steve Jobs was the founder of this company and he hires a CEO to run the company, and somewhere down the line through the life of the organization, the CEO that he appoints fires him, right? So that's an irony that you can see. And the next clue, sir. And he is considered as one of those greatest icons of our times. If there's anybody who hasn't heard of Steve Jobs or the work that he has done for this wonderful company called Apple, and today we're all beneficiaries of this company called Apple, then that's somebody that we should definitely know in this generation, right? Next slide, sir. Yes, sir, the answer is right. Many of you have already given this answer, right? So you can click next, sir. Yeah, so we're talking about former co-founder and the CEO of Apple Computers, right? So that is Steve Jobs as the first entrepreneur. Please remember the clues that we spoke about in order to identify Steve Jobs. Let's go to the next one, sir. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to talk about the next entrepreneur. First clue, sir. He started a business in a small town in Kadalur, Tamil Nadu with 15,000 rupees. And today that company is worth more than $5 billion as such. So we have an entrepreneur we had a California entrepreneur, now we have a Kadalur, Tamil Nadu based entrepreneur. All right, next. He learned business from father. He worked with his father in a packaging unit. So he learned how to run a business, how to operate a business, all of that from his little experience that he had by working with his father. Third clue. Right. The third clue will give you the reason as to why did he go and work with his father, which is he started working at a very young age. As he was very poor in studies, his father told him that he has to opt either one. You're good for nothing, you're not able to study, you're failing in all the subjects in school. Why don't you join agriculture or you join business? Those are the two things that are two options because you're not fit for anything. So his siblings His brothers were a doctor and a lawyer. Can you imagine a child in the family who is not studying well, and you have an older brother, older brothers, you have a lawyer and a lawyer brother and a doctor brother. You know how difficult it is for somebody to be in that kind of a situation. So this is where our entrepreneur was. Okay, next clue, sir. And he was put into the Tamil medium school. Generally, they, often threatened, right? If you don't study well, we'll put you into a government school. We'll send you to a language medium school. So he was put into a Tamil medium school since he wasn't doing well in an English medium school. And this person suffered from tremendous inferiority complex, right? So next one. And, very brilliantly, he has been credited with starting the Sachet revolution. Now, what does that mean? Right, the Sachet revolution is today, if you're able to get a shampoo, a hair oil, or any of those, fairness creams, if you're getting all of that in small sachets that are affordable in 2 rupee packets and 5 rupee packets, that entire revolution, was started by this gentleman that we're talking about, right? Anybody's guessed it? Yeah, Kevin Care, yes, you're right, absolutely. Next slide. That you would have already seen in the presentation when it went down. Okay, yes. So the entrepreneur that we are talking about is, we're looking at the founder and MD of Kevin Care. Next slide, sir. You can enter. Yeah, we're looking at C.K. Ranganathan, Chairman and Managing Director of Kevin Care. Now, can you imagine this person? Can you look at him and say that he suffered from inferiority complex and then he wasn't doing very well in studies, right? Now, this is what this gentleman has created. Now, that's the story of an entrepreneur. Let's go to the third clue. Yeah, third entrepreneur. Okay, now here are two, if you can't identify yourself with a Steve Jobs or you can't identify with a C.K. Ranganathan and you say, so they're all from a different generation, so they're all very gifted, they were all talented, they had something at that point of time. I'm going to give you two examples of entrepreneurs that we are able to identify in the current generation, somebody from our own walks of life. So that is what I've titled this particular segment as Few Among Us. So I have two entrepreneurs, so you need to go ahead and identify who these entrepreneurs are. Okay, the first, go to the next slide, sir. All right, here is an entrepreneur. I mean, he was born in Handatu, Kundapura Taluk of Udupi district in Karnataka. He comes from a coastal area in Karnataka. He went to ISPAT English medium school in Orissa because his father was in a transferable job. So everywhere his father went, this boy had to go and join different schools in different states. Third, he did his undergraduate in energy engineering in IIT Kharagpur, and he did his master's and later PhD in energy engineering from Massachusetts University in the United States. Right, so two wonderful degrees in the field of energy engineering at a time when energy engineering was not selling, as hotcakes. Yeah, as it was not the most chosen stream for anybody to be specializing in. Fourth clue. He went to Dominican Republic for a trip. This is a small island strip that you will find in the southern part of the Mediterranean. Went to Dominican Republic for a trip with his professor. And this is a very poor kind of island where you have some natives and tribals who were there, and they did not have any access to electricity, no access to any kinds of modern facilities and utilities that all of us do get in our households. So his professor told him, see, you have studied energy engineering. Why don't you use that knowledge of yours to see how you can work on rural electrification? About how to electrify or bring electricity to places which are cut off from urban centers. So even today in many of our villages, when you go, you will not see that many villages are electrified. They do not have access to electricity. So how can you use your knowledge? That is what the professor told. He challenged them. Why don't you use your knowledge and see how you can bring about electricity to these places, which often have no access to it. Next clue, sir. In 1993, he did field work in Karnataka and Sri Lanka to bring about, electricity, to bring electricity to the rural places. So, he did his groundwork. He did some field study to find out feasibility as to see how this particular project can be brought into, to fruition in Karnataka and Sri Lanka. Next clue, sir. Yeah, next clue, sir. Yeah. In the year 2011, he was awarded the Raymond Magsaysay Award for his contribution to society. So Raymond Magsaysay Award is a Nobel Prize. It's like a Nobel Prize that is given for social activity or for social service. If you've done a very impactful kind of a social service that has brought about a lot of benefits to a certain group of underprivileged or downtrodden people, that is where these individuals are awarded a Raymond Magsaysay Award. Right? Any guesses? Anybody that you've guessed with these clues? All right, next slide, sir. I'll give you the answer. Yeah, you can enter, sir, again. All right, so I'm talking about this gentleman who's an entrepreneur he's a social entrepreneur. He's called Harish Hande, managing director of Solar Electric Light Company, which is, conversion of electricity or generation of electricity using solar power. So he has Selco. Selco company manufactures small kits. These are portable kits that can be fitted onto a household, and then it can store electricity, and then it can convert that into, it can store solar power and convert that into electricity, and that can be used. All right, next. I have the last entrepreneur for you on the quiz segment. All right, now this is a very similar student like you all, studying information technology engineering from Rajasthan Technical University. Another engineer pursuing another course. Second clue, sir. When he was in the middle school, his grandfather lost his eyesight to diabetes. Third clue. So in his enthusiasm, now what did he do? He thought, he loved his grandfather a lot. And then when he found out that his grandfather was unable to do things on his own because he wasn't able to see and diabetes was affecting him very badly, he thought, given the kind of knowledge that he has, whatever he has studied in engineering, can technology come to use? Can gadgets help a blind person who's suffering from diabetes or a blind person who cannot see? Can technology help? So he was trying to research on that or trying to explore on that. Next clue, sir. So that's where in that entire research and that thought process of trying to see how technology or gadgets can help somebody who's lost sight, he devised a shoe that works using Google Maps and an Android smartphone, right? A special shoe that is to be worn by the visually challenged or the blind individuals, and they will be directed. They will be directed to the direction and the path that they want to go based on Google Maps and Android, smartphone. Next clue, sir. And he was named the Indian Innovator of the Year under the age of 35 by MIT. MIT does a usual list of finding out youngsters who are exceptionally talented, who have very good ideas, innovative ideas. And he was one individual who was chosen, to be in that very privileged MIT list of young innovators, right? And yes, sir, next clue, sir. Next clue, sir, again. Yes, so that is the shoe that he has created. The name, he's designed a shoe for the visually impaired. The name of the shoe is Le Chal. That is the brand in which he sells. Next slide, sir. Yeah, the entrepreneur who is very similar to our age, is Anirudh Sharma, an engineer from Rajasthan Technical University, and he's created this product called Le Chal. You can enter, sir, again. Yeah, and that is the student. I mean, you can see the entrepreneur, young entrepreneur. You should just be around 28, 29 years of age now. And that is the shoe that he has created. All right, next slide, sir. Yes. So those are the quiz segments, right? So what is common that you see in all of them? We had a Steve Jobs, we had a C.K. Ranganathan, we had Anirudh Sharma, and then we had Harish Hande. What is common that you see? Next slide, sir. All right, these were entrepreneurs. And how did they become entrepreneurs? They became entrepreneurs because they were all faced with obstacles. But they did not see these obstacles as some big boulders or something that they could not overcome. When other people saw these as obstacles, these were individuals who decided that they wanted to do something behind. Look at the example of Steve Jobs. Right now, if you go back to the background of Steve Jobs was born to parents who did not want him. Right? He was born to parents who wanted to give him up for adoption. So they actually gave him up for adoption. He was taken up by adopted parents, right? And he was brought up by adopted parents. So imagine a circumstance like that, right? you are born to parents who do not want you and they put you up for adoption and you have to do whatever your adopted parents ask you to do, right? Or you look at C.K. Ranganathan's story. See the obstacle. Somebody who did not study well, somebody who was always branded as fit for nothing, and somebody who was sent to a Tamil medium school, suffered from inferiority complex, did some odd jobs in his father's business. Now, all of those drawbacks and setbacks and challenges did not really bother C.K. Ranganathan, and he has risen above those obstacles. Thirdly, look at Harish Hande. He studied energy engineering, right? And based on the advice of his professor, he decided he wanted to do something for the people in his life. He didn't go ahead like how many others would go and fetch a high-flying job in some multinational corporation, but he decided that he wanted to do something for the benefit of people who do not have electricity. And lastly, we look at the example of Anirudh Sharma. What has he done? Anirudh Sharma, in order to help his grandfather and also help a lot of visually challenged individuals around in the world, he's created that shoe based on the knowledge that he had. Next slide, sir. So what is that you see? You can enter, sir. You can enter next slide. You can enter all those. So what are some lessons that you see? These were all people who were just ordinary people. You know, sometimes if you compare themselves, I mean, compare you with them, I mean, you will feel that you are much more privileged, right? So these were just ordinary people, and sometimes they were below average. They were not rich. They came from humble backgrounds. They had very modest living. They did not come from business families. They did not have somebody supporting them. They did not get any funding. And many of them, as you see, did not have formal education. They were not educated. They did not get access to education like how you have got. And they were not experts in any field, right? But irrespective of all those obstacles, all those challenges, all those setbacks in their life, they did not look at these as setbacks, but rather looked at these as turning points in their life. And with a lot of purpose, with a lot of passion, with a lot of perseverance, and definitely with a lot of hard work, they have turned the world around and created success stories for themselves. That is what entrepreneurship is all about, right? So if you are looking at entrepreneurs with a different pair of eyes, right, you will never be an entrepreneur. You always need to look at things from your own point of view as to what is that you can do. So let's see where is that you can start. Next slide, sir. Yes, sir, you can enter. So the question that you need to ask yourself, when these individuals can go on to become entrepreneurs, these individuals with so many difficulties, so many obstacles, people who are much lesser than whatever we are in terms of comparison, in terms of knowledge, education, experience, whatever, right? Now, when they can go ahead and become successful entrepreneurs, the question that you need to ask yourself is, what is that is stopping me, right? I might be thinking about a corporate job. That's fair enough, right? But always keep one window open. Always keep an eye open to some opportunity and ask yourself, yes, definitely one day I can be an entrepreneur. Look at this example of this wonderful guy that we have in this country called Baiju Ravindran, right? Who started a company from scratch, and today it's a unicorn, right? It has a valuation of more than $1 billion US, and he's in a position today to sponsor the Indian cricket team. Can you look at Baiju Ravindran and say, you know, if Baiju can go on to become successful, can I not become successful? So look at all those entrepreneurs that you have around, and then ask this question: if they can be entrepreneurs, what is that is stopping me? Next slide, sir. So where do you start? So the question is, yes, if you say, sir, I want to be an entrepreneur, where do I start? Right question. Next slide, sir. So this is where I will tell you that you can begin. Very simple. This is called the entrepreneurship value triangle, right? As part of my first series of the workshop, what we did as part of the quiz part is this first part that I teach in entrepreneurship called the anatomy of an entrepreneur. If you straight away start thinking about entrepreneurship, it's not possible. But if you start thinking on the lines of how some of these individuals that we just looked at in the quiz looked at life and looked at this whole aspect of entrepreneurship, that's where you can begin. So that is part of my first exercise that we do in this entrepreneurship program called the anatomy of an entrepreneur. Once individuals realize if there is a spark in you, if there is a certain spirit within you, or if you feel that you're interested, right? If you come up to me and say, sir, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know where to start. I want to be like Steve Jobs. I want to be like C.K. Ranganathan, but tell me where to begin. I don't know what to start. What business can I start, or what idea can I crack? So if you come with that point, that mindset, and if you are in that particular state where you say, sir, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know where to start. That is where I help my students with this entrepreneurship value triangle. And using this simple template of the entrepreneurship value triangle, I've been able to create more than 500 plus business plans for many of my students who today, some of them have fortunately gone on to become entrepreneurs. Right? So if you want to be an entrepreneur, this is where you begin by asking these three questions. What is the first question? The first question is, who am I? So find out everything about yourself. Who are you? What is your education? What is the knowledge? What is your strength? What is the weakness? What sort of a personality you have? What is your attitude? What are the things that you like? What are the things that you don't like? What are your hobbies? What is your passion? Find out everything about yourself. But for an entrepreneur, this is very important. The first journey of an entrepreneur is to be thoroughly aware of oneself. That is the first question. Second question that you need to ask yourself is, what is that I know? Yes, I am so and so, but what is that I know? Like, for example, I have a friend here, Sam Barnaba, who introduced, right? So he was there. So Sam can write a list of things about himself and say, I am Sam Barnaba and I was born here, I know this, I come from this background, from this family, I like this, I like that, all that, great. What is that I know? What is Sam studying? Right? So let's say, for example, for about 20 years, Sam has studied in school, various schools, and then he's come to this particular college, he's doing this course. Right? So what is that he's learned? What subjects have you learned? What experiences have you gained? What sort of internships have you done? What activities have you done? What associations have you been a part of? What projects have you done? All that is something that you know. If today somebody asks you to do any one of those things that you've learned, definitely you will be in a position to do it. That is the second question that you need to answer. Third is a combination of the first and the second equation. Who am I? What kind of a person am I? And what is that I know? The combination of these two will lead you to something that will help you to do what is good and what is nice. What is that I can do is the output. Look at those examples. Let me go back to those examples. Steve Jobs, as I said, in one of the clues I said, he was very fascinated about electronics and gadgets. He wanted to work on gadgets, technology, trying to, find something always, trying to use a combination of different parts and see whether he can come up with something. Because of that very keen interest in electronics and gadgetry, which he had it as a hobby, it was not difficult for him to think out of the box when he had to think about innovations for Apple. That is the reason why this company is credited for having changed the outlook of the world. If you look at some of those innovative products like an iTunes or an iPad or an iPod or a smartphone, Apple smartphone, iPhones that you see are all exceptional, work of the brilliance of Steve Jobs, right? You can look at that. Look at Anirudh Sharma. What did Anirudh do? Right? Anirudh was studying technological, he was an engineering student in Rajasthan Technical University. He said, can I do something with whatever I know? I'm studying engineering. I've learned about this. I know about Android, technology. I know about, these kind of gadgets that can be used. So can I do something with what I know? And there he comes out with a product called Lechal. Right? I give you an example of C.K. Ranganathan. C.K. Ranganathan brought out the sachet revolution, where small items, very expensive items like a shampoo, a toothpaste, a coconut oil and things like that, which, ordinarily, generally low strata of people who cannot afford, right? Now, he introduced this whole concept where some of these very expensive, unaffordable products today are made available through those sachets of 2 rupees and 5 rupees value. See, that is where knowledge comes. I mean, you don't have to do something extraordinary. You are just extending whatever you know. That is where this is very important, right? I challenge you to go and look into the life of any entrepreneur. Read anybody's success story and find out what is that they have done as a business or an entrepreneur or a product, that they brought into the market. And find out what is that. Why did they create this kind of a company? Or why did they create this product? Or what is that they want to serve through these products or through the services that they offer? And you'll always go back that they would always have had something, to answer with those two questions. The kind of person they were and the kind of knowledge and experience that they had, a combination of that is what led them to create this. So do this. It's a very simple exercise. You can go back home, write a list of everything, that falls into these three segments. And there you will be able to see that that space or that potential of the kind of ideas that you can work on or the kind of businesses that you can create. Right, next slide, sir. All right, so now that you know about these entrepreneurs, now that you know the value triangle, are you ready to write a business plan? Yes or no? Is it possible? Are we at that stage to write a business plan? Right? So we're not at that stage to write a business plan because business plan has to be a lot more clear. Business plan has to be a lot more perfect. A lot more information and content is required. When you haven't even figured out what idea or what business you're going to start or what is the concept that you're going to start for your business, you will never be able to write a business plan. So I'm going to take you to the third part. Right? What is the third part? After the anatomy of entrepreneurship, after understanding the entrepreneurship value triangle, I'm going to take you to the third part. Next slide, sir. The next part that I teach in entrepreneurship before we go into writing the business plan is called the 5Q framework. What's the 5Q framework? 5Q framework is a set of 5 questions that you need to ask. If at all you want to be an entrepreneur and you already have something that is working in your mind, 5 questions that you need to answer, and that will help you to go to the next stage. What are the 5 questions? The first, next slide, sir. The first question that you need to ask if you have this idea of becoming an entrepreneur, what important customer problem can you solve? What important customer problem can you solve? How valuable is this product going to be? How painful is this going to be? Or how painless it's going to be? Right? Please remember, when you come up with an idea and you want to make a product or a service to sell, always remember the customer is already using something earlier. You have to help them to change their habit. You have to offer something better. Okay, any product that you take for that matter, right, always has some problem. So the moment you face that problem, you have to see what is the solution that you can offer to yourself or what you can offer to others. Please remember the first question: what important customer problem can you solve? The day you get an idea and you say, I want to start a business in this particular idea, ask this question: how is this idea going to be a solution and what is the problem that it's going to solve? Second question: how are you going to do it? Yes, it's a great idea. Brilliant. Yeah, it's a great idea. And this idea is going to solve it. So once you know the solution, how are you going to convert the solution into a product or a service and then make it available to a customer? So that is where you go into the nuances of business, nuances of entrepreneurship. So what is the product? How is this idea going to be converted into a product? And how is the product going to look? What is the shape of the product? What are the features of the product? What's the utility of the product? Where are you going to make it? What are the raw materials that are required? Are you going to make it in your own company or are you going to outsource it to somebody who will manufacture on your behalf? Where are the parts available? Is it available locally or does it have to be imported? Right? Where are you going to make it? What is the technology? What is the service? What is the brand? So the moment you go to one question, automatically the answers will lead you to the second question. Second question is, how are you going to make your idea come to life? Your idea, how is it going to become a reality? Third question: how many customers are there who are willing to buy from you? Yes. You may say, sir, it's a brilliant idea and this is going to do these kind of things. It's going to help solve so many people's problems and all that. Great. But how many people are there in the market who are ready to buy from you? So that is where you need to know, if you alone feel the need, it doesn't mean that everybody else feels the need. If you say, sir, my friend has this problem and he wants this product. Now he cannot alone be the only person who has this problem. You have to find out, are there any more customers who also have similar problems? So how many customers are there? Find out about the market size. Okay, from this market, how many of them will actually buy from you? There will be a lot of customers that you will meet in the market who will show a lot of interest. They will tell you, sir, it's a great idea, great product, wonderful, I wish you all the best and all. But they would not come forward to buy the commodity, buy the product. So the market is big, but will all of them be able to buy your product? That is what is market share. Thirdly, other than your parents and those who like and love you, who else is going to buy from you? So you should be able to quantify the number of customers that you have and say, this is the size of the market and these are the number of customers who will be interested to buy from us. So you should answer the third question. Fourth, why can only you provide the solution? Why can only you provide the solution? So which means, what is your USP? what is so different about you? And the customer is often going to ask you this question. If you say, sir, I'm going to make this laptop and this laptop is new and this is the best and so on, I will tell you, sir, I'm already using a laptop right now. So in what way is your laptop a lot more different? Tell me what is different in your product or in your laptop or in your service that is not there in whatever I'm using right now or whatever others are selling right now. So please remember, the customer will always feel attracted to even show interest in your idea, your product, your business or your service only if there is some uniqueness, some difference, something that is a USP, something that nobody else has been able to offer. The last question. How can you defend against others? Now, what does it mean? The moment you have a great idea and you make that into a product or a great service, the moment you bring that into the market, right, you start selling it. There will be a lot of people who will see the moment there are customers who come and buy from you and start responding to your business in a very positive manner. There will be a lot of imitators that you will find. A lot of individuals who are interested in entrepreneurship, they will see your idea, copy your product, copy your features, and make a product ditto. That is why today you have a market that has a lot of duplicates. So how are you going to defend your business so that nobody else copies this business, or how are you going to protect your business from being copied, or or making your customers switch from you to them? So that is where you need to create a distinction, right? Maybe the location is something that nobody can match, or the brand name is something that is so unique and different that nobody else can copy and match. Or if you have something very unique, and if you are the first and the original inventor and owner of it, go and get it copyrighted, go and get it patented, right? Do something that nobody else can very easily match. Find out what is that you can do. The more you start thinking about it, you will be able to answer. So remember, these are 5 questions that you need to ask. The moment you start thinking about an idea, what important customer problem am I going to solve? First question, how are we going to do it? Right? Third question, how many customers are there who are willing to buy from us? Fourth question, why only you can provide the solution? The last question is, how can you defend against others? These are 5 basic preliminary questions that anybody who's getting into entrepreneurship or has an idea should start thinking about. Because the moment you start thinking about and trying to find answers for these questions, you are preparing content. You are identifying feasibility. You are trying to find out, you are going to go ahead and get that research done so that you will be able to get this idea into a business reality. Right, next slide, sir. Right. So are you ready now to write a business plan? The first part, I introduced you to the anatomy of an entrepreneur, to find out what is there in the mind of an entrepreneur. Right. Second, I introduced you to the entrepreneurship value triangle, second part. Third, we just completed the 5Q framework, 3 parts. Now, with this information, will you be able to write a business plan? The answer is no. You still haven't arrived enough to write a business plan. So you need to ask the next part. Go to the next slide, sir. Are you clear about these fundamentals? 3 things that are very important, right? So when you enter into a business, when you have an idea and you are going to set up a startup, you need to find out, is the market very attractive and whether the industry also is attractive? What is the difference between market and industry? Many individuals who are getting into entrepreneurship mix these 2 things up and they're unable to know the clarity of it. Market consists of a collection of aggregate of buyers. Industry consists of sellers. So what is attractive about the market that customers will come and buy from you? What is so attractive in the industry where you want to go and make another product and then compete with the rest of the others in the industry? So in both these places, you've got to look for certain critical success factors that will act as attractive points for both the market and for entering the market as well as entering the industry. Second thing that you have to be very clear about is, does the opportunity, the business idea and solution, what you are offering, does it offer customer benefits? Does it have more solutions, or does it have more utility to solve the problem of a customer? Right? And the second part of that question is, okay, if you are offering the solution and you say my product or my service is much better than what others are offering, can you continue to sustain that for a very long period of time? Can you offer the same product for a long period of time? Consistency. Will you be able to offer the same kind of service consistently? Will you be able to, offer the same kind of taste consistently? So this is where many businesses are going out of, many entrepreneurs are going out of business. They do all of this very well in the beginning stage of their business, but they are able to sustain that or are able to consistently show that. So find out how you can do this, how you can offer a compelling customer solution and then also be able to sustain that for a long period of time. Third question, who's going to do this? As an entrepreneur, you are going to be there because it's your idea, your business, your purpose, your passion. But who else is there with you? Do you have a good team? What kind of employees do you have? What kind of partners do you have? Who's going to back you? Who's going to support you? Do you have a reliable set of suppliers? Do you have a reliable set of distributors? We need to ask these questions before we, straight away jumpstart into entrepreneurship. Next slide, sir. So that is where we get into a stage called opportunity recognition. So which means you have to complete all these stages before you get into the business canvas model or even before you start thinking about writing a business plan. So this is a very interesting tool. It's called John Mullen's 7 domains model. There's Professor John from London Business School. He was my tutor, from the Stanford program, and he introduced me to this tool by which we will be able to assess any business opportunity and see whether these businesses can sustain for a long period of time. The first domain that he talks about is market attractiveness. Find out what is attractive about a market segment that you want to attract those sellers to come and buy from you. Second domain that he talks about is called industry attractiveness. When you want to compete, you will get into the competitive arena. You have to identify an industry. Which industry are you going to identify with? What is there in the industry that you are finding as an opportunity? There is a lot of competition. There is already a rivalry within the industry. But you have found something that others have not been able to offer as a solution. You understand? So that is what is industry attractiveness. So that is the second domain. Third domain that he talks about is compelling benefit. Offer a solution that nobody can match. Make a product and with features that nobody can match. Offer that kind of a solution where when you offer it to a customer should never say no. The fourth domain that Professor Mullen talks about is called sustainable advantage. Can you consistently offer the same solution again and again and again? Not today, tomorrow, next week, 1 month later, 1 quarter later, 1 year later, consistently. That a customer should never be able to find a drop in your service or in your quality. The fifth domain that he talks about is you need to rise up the value chain, which means you need to build your business network of suppliers, distributors, and then be able to have connections in the business, in the market, in the industry, so that you're able to scale. Right? The sixth domain talks about mission, aspirations, and propensity for taking risks, which means, as I told you in the beginning, you should have a sense of purpose. You must be very clear what is that you want to offer, what is that you want to achieve, and you must be very passionate about it. And then along with that, you must also be able to take certain calculated risks in that entire bargain of trying to be successful. It's very important. So many entrepreneurs fall. The moment they see failures and challenges, setbacks and some losses, they drop out of the game. But if you're very clear about your purpose, very clear about your mission, very clear about your aspiration, you should be able to go ahead and build it. I'll give you one example here. This company called Infosys that was started by 7 founding members, right? 7 founding members, started Infosys together, right? And when their first customer from the US, gave them the order, they were all very excited, very happy about it. And they all pulled in their investment. They said, yes, we'll go and fulfill the order. But due to some reason, the foreign customer decided that they wanted to, withdraw the order. They canceled the order. The moment they canceled the order, the 5 or 6 different co-founders, along with Narayana Murthy, right? They said, no, I don't think so. This is good enough for us. So it's not, fair. So, we don't want to be a part of it. They all quit. They all resigned and they quit. And then Narayana Murthy said, we have resigned from our well-paying software engineering jobs, and today we have taken this big bargain, right? So we've gotten into this industry. We've started this company in a very small, humble way. So I'm going to go ahead with it because I'm very clear about what is going to happen with IT in this country, and I'm ready for it. If you guys want to stay with me, you can stay with me. Otherwise, you can sell all your shares. You can sell all your, give all your investment. Give me some time. I will run this company and I will pay this back. When company becomes successful. The other co-founders who were already in dilemma, looking at that kind of aspiration and sense of purpose and clarity that Narayan Murthy had, they decided that they will stick with him. They didn't want to leave him behind. They said, "We will be with you, Mr. Murthy," and that is the rest of it is history. And you can see what Infosys is today. So that's where that aspiration, mission, sense of purpose, clarity, and the propensity to take the right kind of decisions at the right time is very important. And then finally, you have all of this. John Mullins talks about, yes, you have a great idea, you know how to do it, but very importantly, you must know how to execute it. Execution is the key. You have a great idea, you make a plan, but if you're unable to make the decision at the right time, you're unable to implement it, then it's of no use, right? Be able to, get that right business timing to make sure that you're able to identify what decision has to be made at what time, and then be able to use your factors in the business environment to your favor, matching your strength to the opportunity, and then thereby be able to do it. So John Mullins' model is when you have come to the stage that you want to launch your business. You have an idea, you have a proposal, you already are in the process of writing a business plan, whatever at that point of time, right? It's important that you test ride your business idea. Test riding your business idea is trying to see whether your idea will pass through the 7 domains. If it passes through the 7 domains very favorably, successfully, that means you have achieved your purpose. This is a tool called the opportunity recognition tool. All right, next slide, sir. Next slide. All right, so now are you ready? You've done John Mullins' 7 domains model. So after the 7 domains model, are you ready to write a business plan? Let us see whether you're ready. Next step. Yes, of course you are ready to write a business plan, because once you come to opportunity recognition, you have all the data, you have all the content, you have explored all the difficulties, you have identified the various domains, you have checked for feasibility, so you have the necessary content. So what is stopping you from writing a business plan? Go ahead. Right, so enter, sir. All right, so enter all of it, sir. So what is a business plan? A business plan is more like seeking a treasure. This is a very ordinary example. A business plan is like seeking a treasure. You have a certain purpose, you have a goal, you want to make your product, make it very successful, you want to earn greater revenues, profits, you want to become rich, you want to become successful. But how are you going to do it? In order to do that, you have chosen this path. Those who will take the path of entrepreneurship will look at entrepreneurship as going to be the end result that is going to make them successful. Those of you who are going to be looking at a corporate job will try to do everything possible, get that education, get into the, right kind of companies, learn as much as possible from the job, take up new kind of challenges, and you want to grow up because you want to grow up and become successful as quickly as possible. Very similar to a treasure hunt, right? And these are the set of things that we need to ask. What is the treasure? What is that we're going to gain? And how much is there? How much of treasure is there, or how much of profits we can make? What is the cost of it? Who else is after the treasure? Who are the competitors? What are the challenges and obstacles that we have in the route? And how do we get to the treasure? So we have these, 250 million customers. That is the size of the market, 250 million customers. Now, how do we get maximum of those customers to come and spend money on my company's product? How do I make them spend more? Important. And who are the people that I have to support in this venture? Am I alone going on a treasure hunt? Or do I have people with me? Yes, if they are with me, what are the kind of skills that they have? So when you are trying to set out to go and get some sort of a treasure or some sort of something that is very worth, that's very similar how you can go ahead writing a business plan. Go to the next one, sir. Next slide. Next slide, sir. So what is a business plan then? Very similar. So the business plan is going to give a very elaborate description of the qualitative goal. Very importantly, what is the goal? What is your purpose? What is that you want to achieve through the business plan? How are you going to do it? What are the qualitative, quantitative aspects? How many customers are there? In how many years are you going to break even? How much of investment is needed? How much money you are going to spend on the first year, in the second year, and the third year, right? On what activities, business activities are you going to spend money? How much of money or investment are you expecting? So everything in terms of numbers, even before you have started your business, you are explaining, or you have an idea of the estimated amount or number that you're going to spend. That is what is the quantitative goal. Third question, who is in the competition? You alone are not the only player. Who else is there in the industry? How many competitors are there? How many local or domestic competitors are there? How many international competitors are there? Find out how many people you are going to fight against. What are the other dangers? What is the problem? What if you don't get investment? What if somebody else copies your idea? What if somebody else files a complaint? What if customers don't come and buy? Right? So you need to, what do you say? You need to visualize the kind of obstacles or challenges that you will face. And how are you going to do it? Do you have a detailed execution plan? Do you have a template? Do you have a plan when and where and how you are going to implement your idea, your plan? And then who is on your team? Who are the members who are part of your entrepreneurial team? What are the kind of jobs do they do? What is the kind of knowledge? What kind of experience? What kind of skills they have? So you need to have all of this, because your business plan must necessarily have answers for all these questions. Because whoever to whom you're going to go and show your business plan, they are more interested to find out answers for these questions. Your business plan does not have these answers, they're going to ask you these questions. All right, so that is what a business plan is going to have. So next slide, sir. Are you ready to write a business plan? Next slide. Enter, sir. Right, sir. Next, sir. So writing a business plan is very equal to planning your business. Right? So when you plan something, you don't plan just like that. You take a thorough process, you identify the pros and cons, you look at the cost and benefit. So you do a lot of things. So planning a business, writing a business plan go hand in hand. Next slide, sir. Right, so that is where we are entering into the business model canvas. So these are 9 dimensions. It's a template, right? It's a 9-dimensional template, right? You will be very easily able to answer the questions that are there in the 9 dimensions, because you have already done the anatomy of an entrepreneur. You have already done the entrepreneurship value triangle. You have already completed the 5Q framework. Then you have checked for opportunity recognition using Professor John Mullen's 7 domains model. In these 4 stages or 4 phases, as you have journeyed, you have already answered the questions that the business plan is going to ask, or the business canvas model proposes to answer. So you already have data, you already have thought about it, you already have information about it. So there is nothing that's going to stop you. The first dimension on your business canvas model is customer segment. So who are the customers? For whom are you making this product? For whom is this business established? For whom is this service? And what solution are you going to offer to them? How many customers are there in the market? So all these questions that we are going to answer as part of the business plan, business canvas model, template 1, is already answered. So how many customers are there? What is the market size? What is the market potential? In how many years does this market grow? Right? So straight away there. So that is the first segment. Let's look at the next one, so second one. All right, the second dimension is value proposition. So what is that you're offering? Right? What solution, what customer problem can you solve? And what solution that you are offering? And then what is so different about the solution that nobody else can offer? If you say, sir, I've got a great product, this product can do all these kind of things. Great. Why is that only you can offer and not anybody else? The moment you answer this question in the 5Q framework and the 7 domains model itself, you already have a value proposition. Please remember, if you want to make a business successful, if you want to make a business idea stand out, if you want to make a product that everybody else is going to take a look at, there has to be a USP, there has to be a value proposition, and there has to be something that the customer will always get more. right? Remember, the customer is always looking for spending less and getting more. So that value is what you have to very clearly show and explain to your customer. Next slide, sir. Third, channels. How are you going to do it? You have these customers who have their problem, who have their need. Here you have a business which has an idea, which has made products and services. How are you going to take the product to the customer? What are the channels? What are the different ways in which the customers will be able to contact you, your organization? How will you be able to identify customers' need and then be able to distribute or sell these goods to them? How are you going to connect? What is the logistics? What is the supply chain involved? That's the third thing that you need to answer, right? Fourth, customer relationship. What's very important? You don't sell a product to a customer and then say tata bye-bye. You have to build a relationship, because only when you build a good relationship with your customer, you're going to convert your first-time customers into repeat buyers. It is not just selling a product. Please remember, many companies that launch their products in the beginning are successful. You know why? Because customers want to come and try. They want to find out, this is a new company, so let us try. So on the basis of the trial, they want to try, they want to check and find out, what is this product this company says so many things in their advertisements, in their promotion, in their word of mouth. Let us find out for ourselves. So there is always the sense of curiosity. They want to find out something new, sense of curiosity, and want to find out what this new product is all about. So that often cannot be converted into sales. You cannot always be optimistic about your initial success and say, we will definitely be able to sell. Right? The success comes only when these first-time customers, these trial customers, or these customers who said, let me try in the beginning, they should be able to come back again. So how are you going to do it? That is on the basis of building customer relationship. Right? Today, a lot of companies today are able to sell very similar products of similar quality and value. But what sets one company apart is how well they take care of the customers. What is the kind of relationship that they have? And customer relationship also can give you a lot of new ideas, their suggestions, their feedback, their frank opinions, their reviews of the product that you are selling can give you a lot of information with which you can improve your product and also think about ideas for the next product that you want to bring into the market. Next slide, sir. Yeah, next, value proposition, channels, customer. Revenue streams, very important. A lot of cost is involved in starting a business, right? From the idea to the feasibility to the opportunity recognition, getting consultants, doing a lot of market research, building a prototype and trying to test that in the market, doing alpha surveys, beta surveys, doing all of that, yes, great. But ultimately, the success of any business is seen only when it is able to fetch revenues. You should be able to sell a product and get the equivalent of the monetary value. So revenue stream, you should be able to see, how you can generate more and more revenues and have more and more money flowing into your organization, cash inflows, right? So find out all those possible ways by which you can, you can target the customer and then be able to get them to spend more and increase the cash flows to your organization. On the basis of this is where you will decide the success of your organization in terms of, what is the increase in sales, what is the increase in revenue, what is the increase in profits, and then in how many years you're going to break even, right? So revenue stream, find out how you can earn money through your business. Next one, sir. Right, if at all you want to do all of this, very important, you need resources. So what are the key resources on the basis of which your business is going to stand? It could be, first of all, it's going to be, monetary resources, financial resources, material resources, technological resources, human resources, right? Find out all those key resources that are going to be pumped into your key activities, and those activities are going to be implemented, and that is how your business is going to be run. Find out your key resources, find out where these key resources are available, how you can get them at least cost, and then be able to efficiently utilize these resources so that you will be able to implement and see that kind of success. Next slide, sir. Are we looking at key activities? So which means, as part of your business strategy, what are the set of jobs or activities that you're going to do? A set of activities in production, set of activities in R&D, set of activities in accounting and financing, set of activities in sales and marketing, right? right? Set of activities in, your organization management and administration, key activities. And these key activities require key resources, key people. And then you're able to execute these activities efficiently and effectively so that you're able to ensure that they're all sticking to the plan and they're able to appropriately, implement the strategy and get the kind of results. Next slide, sir. And finally, who are the key partners? So your business cannot survive only by you and only by the team that is backing you. You also need partners, right? You need to build partnership with certain organizations that are there, which are compatible with you. Build partnership with your suppliers, build partnership with your distributors, build partnership with your investors or investing institutions, right? Because it's always a win-win equation in a supply chain, a win-win equation where you are going to support other partners, other business partners will support you, and ultimately, the organization, will function and will flourish. Next slide, sir. Right, and the cost structure. We want to do all of this, but ultimately it depends on what is the cost structure. How is that you're going to offer value to your customer, right? Offering value to your customer is making sure that whatever you're going to sell is within that budget of a customer, is within the benefits are greater than the cost. So this is where you have to be very sensible. Just because you get a lot of money and the money can come through, banks and financial institutions of a venture capitalist, you cannot recklessly spend. You have to thoughtfully spend. And make sure that you always keep your cost under control, because the more you're able to keep your cost under control, automatically you will be in a position to increase that value. And once a customer is able to see that increased value for the limited price that they're paying for the product or the service, automatically you will be able to get. So remember this, keeping a cost structure tab is always very important. All right, next slide. All right, brilliant. Those were the 9 areas that we covered. So the business model canvas has these 9 dimensions. And these 9 dimensions, if you are able to thoughtfully look at each one of these dimensions and how each dimension is going to contribute to that entire business structure and that entire startup that you're going to build, ultimately can lead you to that success. Next slide, sir. Yes, if you're ready, if you've answered all of these questions and you've got all the dimensions in mind, you're ready to write a business plan. Next slide, sir. So how do we define a business plan? Next slide. So it's nothing but a written document. Everything that is there in your mind, everything about the thought and the plan, the purpose that you have in your mind, all that feasibility content that you have access, you are going to write that into a formal document. And that document is what we call as a business plan. And this document is going to be needed by several people who are interested in your business and those you would want to solicit, so that they can partner with your organization and help you to grow in your business. Next slide, sir. So for whom are we writing the business plan? Yeah, you're writing it for investors, because only on the basis of your business plan, they will give you the money. Secondly, you can submit your business plan to some advisors or some beneficiaries that you are looking for, who you're seeking a lot of support from. Third, if you want to hire people, why will somebody come and work in a startup when you are beginning and there is nothing much to show and you are going to be paying, very low salaries? Why will somebody want to work for a startup? But if they see a business plan, if they're convinced about your business plan, definitely they would want to work. Yeah, next up. You can enter, sir. Hiring. Next slide, sir. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So you're going to convince your first customers and also to get some partners on your board. This is very important. So business plan is not only for you. Business plan gives you, of course, it gives you clarity. It's very important that whoever to whom you're going to be soliciting, you're getting them to come and help and support you in your business. They're all going to be interested, and definitely a business plan is always going to help, right? Yes, the next suppliers, partners, distributors, a whole lot of people in the supply chain. So who's going to write the business plan? You can enter, sir. Yeah, you can go to a consultant, because consultants exactly know what exactly venture capitalists and investors will be looking for. They will write to the point, right? Second one, the team can sit together and write, because you know your business. The entrepreneur and your team can sit and write the business, and you will put in a lot of passion. You will put in your first-hand effort into writing that business plan. Third, you can write it. You are the CEO of the organization. You know your business better than anybody else. You can do it. Next up. So anybody who has knowledge of the business plan, anybody who can convince, anybody can put in that human approach into that business plan can always write a business plan. So what form should the business plan be in? Enter, sir. Right? If you're going to make that business plan document as well as your presentation should be of just 15 slides in 20 minutes. That's all. And your executive summary is the summary or the gist of your business plan. That should be less than 5 pages. And your entire document, next slide, sir. The business plan document should be in 25 pages. So within 30 pages, you have to explain everything of what you want to do, including the 9 dimensions of your business canvas model. Next slide. So what should you write? What are the things that you've got to keep in mind? Add a lot of pictures. You can put in a lot of that, but don't put a lot of senseless pictures. Pictures that can explain. If you're writing a paragraph and then if you feel that you want to put a diagram or a picture, that explains, right? Enter, sir, enter. All right, so be very clear about what you want to do with your business, because there is nothing for you to show. With an established organization, you have something to show. You have financials, previous years, balance sheet and profit and loss accounts, all of that. There is something to show. For a startup, there is nothing. You're only going to look at the future and say, I'm going to be doing this, or we want to do this, we will achieve this. You're telling people about something that they cannot visualize. So there must be a lot of hope, optimism, assertions, and you must believe that you're going to make that happen. Next up. And it must have a lot of facts, inferences, implications. You cannot tell a fairy tale story in a business plan. And when you have done your 5Q framework, entrepreneurship value triangle, opportunity recognition, all these tools have given you a lot of facts, figures, information, implications, ups and downs and everything. So all of that is going to help you. Next up. And please remember, you cannot be ignorant. When they ask you some question related to your business plan or some particular point relevant for any investor to know, do not, be ignorant. And when it comes to the financials, you are showing the forecasted P&L and the balance sheet, right? So you're going to show the estimated cash flows, how you are going to make money. All of that is a projection. But be very clear about those estimates. Be very clear about how you have projected, and also be able to make the right kind of assumptions on the basis of which these, the entire business is built, right? And do not counter your own statement. So that is what we mean by consistently being inconsistent. Never say, I don't know, we will let you know. You've got to be very clear about it. So if you haven't done any of the previous phases of the homework that I told you, if you haven't gone through those phases in a proper way, you will definitely feel yourself in a very, very miserable state when you are unable to answer a question that any investor or anybody who wants to be a part of the business is going to ask you. Next slide, sir. Next slide. Yeah. And do not be very defensive. Very important. Defensive and arrogant. 2 things. Most entrepreneurs, especially startups, when they are going to pitch, and if someone asks the question, they become very annoyed. They become angry. They don't try to get the point of the question, and you believe that you know how you want to run. So that's not good. That's not the right attitude. You must always be willing to listen to people. So do not try to be defensive. Do not try to be arrogant. So what are the components of your business plan? You can put all of that stuff. Right, the cover slide, business positioning, the name of your company, the tagline, that should be enough. Market. What is the need of the market? What is the problem? What is the customer problem? And what are the difficulties that a customer is going through and how you are going to solve that problem? Third, what is the solution? What is that compelling customer benefit that you are going to offer that nobody else can offer? Fourth, who are the various competitors who are there? And what is the strategy that you have devised so that you are going to beat that competition and not let anybody overcome whatever you are offering? Next one. Market or sales. How are you going to make the product? How are you going to sell the product? How are you going to distribute the product? Right? What is your sales strategy? What is your 4 P's strategy? And when you're going to start a business. So when are you going to start the business? Who are the people who are going to help you? How are you planning to grow in the first year, in the second year, in the third year, and so on? And then financial projections, as I told you. You're making estimations of how much you are spending, how much you are earning, when you are going to break even, how much of money investment is required at different phases. Going to explain all of that to a projected financial statements. And what is the amount of money that you're expecting? Funding. How much of estimated investment are you looking at? Initial investment, seed capital, then phase-wise capital as you keep progressing. From whom are you targeting, and how much are you planning to get? How you plan to utilize that money? Very important. And then who are the people who are there with you? The management team. Introduce your team. Tell them these are the people that I have. These are the skill sets that they have. These are the kind of experience they come from. And then milestone. When are you planning to launch, and how are you planning to run for the next 3 years, and what are you planning to do, who you're trying to partner with, when you want to break even, when are you planning for an IPO, when do you want the venture capitalists to exit. All of those details you must be very clear. The business is not there, but you know what the business is going to be and what it is, what is the shape that it will take in the future. So your business plan must have all of these components. If you want content for all these components, if you go through the 5 phases that I taught and you write, you do a thorough work of your business model, your canvas model, you will get the content and you will be bang on when you are able to write your business plan. Next slide, sir. Yes. So what are the outcomes? So all of this has to be explained. What are your milestones? You should have targets. Enter, sir. Go to the next slide, sir. Go to the next slide. All these are very important. And all of this gets answered when you are writing your business canvas model. Those 9 dimensions of your business canvas model gives you the set of activities and gives you the set of outcomes. And with that, you will be able to put those milestones and be able to very clearly tell people, this is the amount of money that I want. This is the rate of interest at which we're going to operate. And this is where the money is going to be spent. And this is what you're planning to do with it. And this is what we are going to do in the market. And this is the time at which we are ready to repay and give you the benefit of that investment that you have given. Absolute clarity. Right, next slide, sir. Yeah, if you go to the next slide, sir. So what are the funding sources? Right, so this is the pre-seed funding, especially when you're going to start, you will not have anybody backing you up at the moment. So you'll always rely on your savings. We call this as bootstrap financing. You will always look at your savings. You will ask your family, friends, and those initial people who can help you. You need that in the beginning to go through the initial phases. All that pre-business plans, or we call that as a pre-stage. Once you have reached that position of writing a business plan, that is when, once your business plan is very properly done, then you can target. You can go to banks and financial institutions, you can go to angel investors, you can go to private investors, you can go to venture capitalist organizations, organized institutions, or you can go to private venture capitalist firms. Pitch your idea. Because please remember, there are people with a lot of money who don't have ideas. On the other hand, you have people with a lot of ideas who don't have the money. So you have to be able to go to the right person. The person with the idea has to go to the person with the right money, who's looking for an investment. Or somebody with the investment should go and search for people who have the right ideas. That's where today we are bridging the value. That is where the whole ecosystem of entrepreneurship is building in this country. Right? And if you're looking at more organized kind of funding, that's where you can go for venture capitalist funding. And finally, you can later look at private equity funding. So you require money at different phases. You must be able to span the phase of your business. In the first year, how much do I need? From where am I going to get the money from? The next 3 years, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get the money from? The next 5 years, what am I going to do? Who am I targeting for funding? So you must be able to get all of this, and then you should be able to run your business until a time when you are able to stand independently, financially independent. And then probably maybe after about 6 years or 8 years, you can go in for an IPO and then be able to do your business independently, coming out of this startup phase. Right, so that's what you can do. Right, so next slide. All right, so these are all different sources. Equity funding, debt funding, as I told you, you can get money from all these different sources, depending on your need, depending on the size of the investment, depending on the requirement, depending on the risk. You can always decide what source of equity funding you can go to sources and what sort of debt funding you can go to. Finally, last slide. So that's again a snapshot of your business model canvas. All right. So I didn't want to enter into the business canvas model because it's not going to make sense to you if I straight away start talking about the business canvas model if I don't handhold you and then bring you into this whole journey of entrepreneurship. And that is that small, humble effort that I tried to put in. Because this is something that is the last phase of that entrepreneurial lecture series and workshop series that we organize. So it's very difficult to actually come to this stage, to the final stage. And that is why I took you through that. So just to give you a recap, we did the quizzing part, which is just part, a glimpse of it to identify the anatomy of an entrepreneur so that you are able to go into the mind of an entrepreneur and know how an entrepreneur thinks. The second thing, the moment you have the desire and interest and you have this purpose and passion and you believe that you want to be an entrepreneur, use those three simple questions by answering the entrepreneurship value triangle. Who am I? What is that I know? What is that I can do? Once you get a little more clarity, you're almost 20% done, right? Then you do the 5Q framework. Answer those 5 very important critical questions, right? Answer those 5 questions. And once you are beginning to answer those questions, you are getting to probe a little more deeper into the field of entrepreneurship and trying to make your business a little more real. You're almost 40%, 45% done. Once you're done with your 5Q framework, use the opportunity recognition model. There are many tools that are available. I just gave you one template, which is John Mullen's 7 domains model. Test your idea or your business concept on those 7 domains and see whether it gets through, clearly through those 7 domains. Once you've done with opportunity recognition, you're almost 80% there. The moment you're done with 80%, apply the concept back on the business model. So whatever remaining information that you required, from that 80 to make that into 100, that 20% of gaps or 20% of information or content that is lacking, you will be able to connect it using the business canvas model. And with that, you have 100% content. Once you're able to have that content and that, that state of mind, you can always go ahead, write your business plan, go and pitch it to the right people and to the right investors, and get the money in, get your business started. And that is how this entire journey of entrepreneurship, from a stage where you said, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, to a stage of becoming that full-fledged successful entrepreneur like the Steve Jobs or C.K. Ranganathan or Anirudh Sharma or Harish Hande. You can be one day and you can be that poster boy. Your names will get featured. Your pictures will get featured on newspapers, or your pictures will get featured on, in business magazines. And tomorrow you will be a role model. You've got to visualize that kind of a future for yourself. And that is what this entire presentation, that's the attitude and the intention with which I started, and that is what I wanted to offer to you. Right, so next slide. So with that, we come to the end of this presentation, though it was too much content, but in very less time, but I wanted to do justice by doing this. So thank you so much once again to everybody involved in organizing this program. So before I take up some questions, I will take this opportunity to thank Dr. Stephen, a good friend of mine, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity, and Dr. Kotishwaran Mani. I must thank him, because he's always been there, connecting with me, helping me to get, to make sure that we do it. Though we've exceeded a little more, but I'm sure, I've done justice, and the students will definitely be benefited out of it. And I'm willing to take some questions. And if later on at a stage, if we want to do something more elaborately, more hands-on, more practical, so that students learn by doing, we can always do that. I'm always open for that. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you, Stephen, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Very interesting, useful session. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Dear students, please ask the question to sir. It's your opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, sir, if you are able to get some questions later on also is fine. I can always answer. Whichever way. Yeah.
Good evening to all. Any one or two questions? You can type in chat box also.
Yeah.
Sir, Mr. Bhubalan mentioned.
So how to choose our target customer, B2B or B2C? So it depends on the kind of business that you want to do. It's a good question, Bhubalan. It depends. If you are going to be, if you find an opportunity in an industry where you want to offer something which is going to be an input factor, it's going to be a technology that some other company can take and utilize, or a raw material that you have found as an alternative for something that they are using. In the B2B channel, your customers are going to be definitely businesses. So that is where you look at it. B2C is a different ball game altogether. With the dynamics of the B2B market is very different because you have only rational buyers, and it works on a different dynamics as to how the other party looks at value. But in B2C, when you're selling final end commodities that are going to be used for final consumption, if you're going to be a manufacturer or if you have an idea, the market is pretty big. It works both on the sense of rationality or on the sense of emotionality. Customers definitely look at buying. So in the B2B, you should remember products are purchased for a business purpose. So they're always very rational. Any decision that the procurement buyer is going to make in the B2B industry is always answerable to their organization. But whereas in B2C, it is not like that. You are buying for yourself, you're buying for your family. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of involvement, there's a lot of participation, all that is involved. So it depends. So if you have a good idea in the B2B, you can think about it, because engineering students, you should definitely explore that component. Very often you look at the B2C, you should look at the B2B. Explore the market that is there right now. Find out what input factors, raw material, technology, components, whatever that is being used both in B2B and B2C is not the end. It is not that we have all the solutions for everything that we are doing. So we must always be able to find something more better. So that is where your thought should be. Look at things around you, observe things around you. When you have a problem, don't ignore it. Don't say it's a problem and then accept it naturally. Ask this question: why is this happening? Why is it taking slow? Why is it taking so much of time? Why is it so expensive? Why can't we do this with a different material? Keep asking these questions. The moment you keep asking these questions, you are thinking differently. You are thinking like an entrepreneur. And obviously the solutions will drop out the moment you start thinking. So think about it. It's a very natural process. So once you come to that particular state, you will definitely be able to get clarity on that as such.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other question? Yeah, there's one more, I think. Okay.
Any final question?
You can share the presentation with the students also, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's very useful because later on, I mean, they can go through it. And if they have any doubts or questions, you can always, because it's a very concise, part that I put in. It's a 6 or a 7, part entrepreneurial workshop program. I've just taken the bits of it so that I could concise it and give them a glimpse of it. What we've seen is just the bird's eye view, just a glimpse of it, more like a trailer, as you say. Okay, it's just like that. But if they have doubts and questions later, they can always, come back. And we can always do this because this is done very practically. This is done hands-on. This idea generation and opportunity recognition. We do this hands-on. Students do it and learn. There's a lot of excitement when we do this as a workshop or as part of a program like that. So we'll see, sir. Sometime when things are all fine, we can always look at it.
Yes, sir. Definitely, sir.
Sure, sir.
Sir, Director, sir, can we go for vote of thanks, sir? Jenny?
Yes, sir. Thank you for your insightful presentation, sir. It was really a brainstorming session. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Showing gratitude is one of the simplest yet most powerful things human can do. Now, I would like to call Ms. Subha, first MBA, to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, Subha.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to present the vote of thanks on behalf of Knowledge Institute of Technology, Knowledge Business School, Salem. It's been a remarkable experience listening to Mr. Stephen Deepak, Associate Professor, School of Management, Christi Jayanti College, Bangalore. Thank you so much for this session on business plans, sir. Next, I would like to thank Dr. P.S.S. Srinivasan, founder and principal of Knowledge Institute of Technology in absentia, for his continuous effort for the betterment of the students. Next, I would like to thank Dr. A. Stephen, Director of Knowledge Business School, for his limitless support in all our endeavors. Next, I would like to thank Dr. P. Suresh Kumar in absentia, Mentor and Director of Knowledge Business School. Program coordinators, heads of various departments, faculty, and students. I once again thank everyone for your presence. Over to you, Janani.
Thank you, Subha. Once again, thank you all for your enormous cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, sir. Thank you, all the students.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kotishwaran, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, shall we end the meeting, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Sagar, sir?
Sir, okay, sir.